Well, hey there, thanks for clicking on my video. I hope you stick around. If you're new around these parts, welcome back to another episode of Curse Review. Today we're discussing a movie that I went into pretty excited about, Drive Away Dolls, directed by Ethan Coen and written with his wife Tricia Cooke. Starring Margaret Qualley and Geraldine Viswanathan, Drive Away Dolls is a lesbian road trip comedy about two gals on a journey to go birding and get laid in Tallahassee, Florida. But they just so happen to grab the wrong drive-away car, which contains, let's say, some toe-curling memorabilia. Spoilers ahead, so if you want to go in blind, pause here, go see the movie, and then come back and watch my video. Now, let's get into it. I was initially stoked to see a solo directorial feature from one of the Coen brothers, and the reviews were comparing it to Burn After Reading, which is one of my favorites of theirs. I wanted to see what one of those brothers could do without, the other brother, and Drive Away Dolls certainly does something. The opening of the movie is really fun. We see Pedro Pascal with a briefcase, and we deduce that something important is in that briefcase because he literally gets corkscrewed in the neck and beheaded. Then we're introduced to Jamie, and Margaret Qualley is clearly having a field day with this role. She's hammy as hell and eager to please, but the script doesn't do her many favors. Her accent actually worked pretty well for me, and I just wish there was more from her character to mine. Then we get introduced to Marion, who is the foil to Qualley's manic cartoon character. Viswanathan is clearly a talented comic actor, but her lines also feel dead on arrival. They have chemistry, but for some reason, they don't pop like I feel they should. It took me about 15-20 minutes into this movie to really start feeling like, where is this going? And that is not a good thing to think about a road trip buddy comedy movie. Everything felt forced. It felt like two people with a strong affinity for each other smoked a huge blunt and were like, let's write a screenplay together. Yeah, let's do it, let's write a screenplay. And they did it, and this is what came out. This also means that it feels like they didn't do a lot of the necessary edits, or they just didn't work out a lot of the kinks and problems that were there. And this is a bummer because there's a lot of funny ideas to be mined. A sexually liberated lesbian romp taking place in 1999, probably because that's closer to the time that they wrote the actual script, and the conveniency of having no cell phones so that the girls can't get tracked and basically ruining the film's conceit. The movie is noticeably queer, and that's awesome. Doesn't make much difference if the movie itself isn't very good. I'm all for representation, and for that, I'm glad it was released. But I would have preferred more jokes past like, haha, look at this wall-mounted dildo, look how funny that is. And it's like, it feels too earnest and juvenile. The tone is really difficult to read, and this caused me to be confused for the majority of the film's runtime. And confusion is not a good feeling if it's not interesting. Movies like Twin Peaks' Fire Walk with Me, or even the most recent Dune 2, left me pondering after I finished watching them. They're confusing, but they also elicit a sense of wonder and are thought-provoking. Done right, this adds mystique and room for interpretation from the audience. You can make up your own meaning as you go and infer for yourself. It adds intrinsic value for the viewer. It led to a not that great theatrical experience, especially because even while feeling frustrated by it, I wanted it to be good the entire time. There are so many visually interesting and interrupting moments where my brain started pinging really loudly. Okay, this is good, more of this, give me more. But those moments don't amount to much more than a shoddily placed finale that's somehow less interesting than what's come before. There's no payoff, it's not gratifying. And the Coens are, if anything, deeply satisfying in their cinema exploits. I mean, come on, the wood chipper scene in Fargo. But it's not fair to compare Drive Away Dolls to those movies, but it's also hard not to when the film so clearly nods to their legacy. The pool voyeur scene, which I really liked and was filmed very interestingly. Qualley's performance immediately evoked Raising Arizona, and of course, the two goons a la Fargo. One of which is played by Joey Slotnick, who is actually one of the best parts of the movie. He's quick, he's funny, and he reminds me a lot of Paul Giamatti. Also, how do you make someone so compelling like Coleman Domingo into basically a non-character? How is this the same guy from Zola? That movie slaps, and he was great in it. He has the presence and makings of an excellent on-screen villain. He hardly did anything but dial numbers and jabber with his cronies in Drive Away Dolls. Those trippy and psychedelic sections, which are scored by Funkadelic's Maggot Brain, one of the best guitar solos of all time. Fight me in the comments if you disagree. They don't really make any sense, and when they do, they still don't. Miley Cyrus shows up in this for some reason, and I guess that's cool because I needed something to be stoked on about this movie, and Miley Cyrus showing up does that. This makes me think that the implication is that the briefcase we found out is a bunch of dildos that are replications of famous men's phalluses. is not really the point. The point of the movie is the relationship fostered between Jamie and Marion. Because I didn't really feel that much for Jamie and Marion by the end of the movie. They're cute together, sure. Why do we care about them other than that their lesbian representation on screen? The writing is so empty and straightforward that from the very beginning you know that Jamie and Marion are gonna end up banging and living happily ever after in the Panhandle. If the script had more fully fleshed out why we should care about Jamie and Marion, would have been easier to invest in that plot line. But because that is so obvious and not as interesting, we fixate on the briefcase, which is also very lacking for a payoff. So then I'm like, what was all this for? I'm a big overthinker, and the more I write and think and write about drive-away dolls, maybe I'm missing the point entirely. And when I see the positive reviews, I overthink to myself even more, what am I missing? It's not a terrible way to spend some time. You get a few laughs, a few sight gags, but it feels like maybe if the movie was either a short film, that if the film had been given more time to grow, it would have shined a little bit more. The road trip aesthetic, the journey, and the characters would have been able to be expanded on in a way that made you care a little bit more. But instead, we got Curly, and I like Curly. That leads me to the next thing, the editing. The movie is a cool 84 minutes, which at first excited me. I love short movies. If a movie can hit the 90-minute mark even, I'm just a little more excited to see it. I don't need a bloated 2-hour, 40-minute movie, though if done right, those 2 hours can feel like a breeze. Somehow Drive-Away Dolls feels longer because the audience is spending so much time trying to find its footing. Some of the editing choices are weird. They feel like the cheapest transitions from Final Cut Pro or iMovie. And that's saying something because I sometimes use transitions like that. But the cartoony interludes and junctions don't work so well if the movie itself isn't more madcap. So when you get those edits that feel purposefully funny, but they don't execute that feeling, it falls flat and it feels forced. It does feel experimental, and for that I like it, but it still felt out of place and was to the film's detriment. I have a lot of thoughts about Drive-Away Dolls. So why does something that should feel so good feel so empty? A lot of the Coen brothers movies often have those sort of empty endings. They're very open-ended and interpretive, but Drive-Away Dolls doesn't have that, and I think maybe that's okay. And maybe, just maybe, because Ethan Coen and Tricia Cooke were able to cut their teeth with Drive-Away Dolls, we may get something that's much better crafted and more interesting in the future from them. Have you seen Drive-Away Dolls, and what did you think of it? Are there any lesbian movies or movies with predominantly lesbian characters that you would recommend I watch? Leave all the comments below, and don't forget to bang, bang, bang that subscribe button, as we are still trying to hit our goal of 300 subscribers. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate all of your support. Keep watching movies, keep the conversation going, and until next time, peace.